Welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm going to focus on the process we went through and some results we found when we redesigned our introductory psychology course into a 50% online hybrid course. First of all, let's begin with why did we do it? First of all, in this economic climate, the university was trying to discover different ways of more efficiently using resources, especially space. We needed to serve more students as the university grew. We also wanted to encourage students to take more responsibility for their own learning. Additionally, the three of us involved in the course redesign were at a point in our careers where we're ready to be re-energized. We'd done the same thing for many years and wanted to try something new and different to get our passion back for teaching. In summer of 2010, the University of North Carolina at Charlotte held a week-long workshop with the National Center for Academic Transformation on course redesign. The three of us from psychology went to this workshop and decided this would be a perfect vehicle for us in our introductory psychology. We chose from the models that NCAT provided a hybrid format or replacement model. In the model, we replaced one of two face-to-face meetings each week with online activities, media assignments, quizzes, practice exams, trying to find all kinds of different things students could do using technology. Knowing there were many choices out there, we invited the four major publishers to come to the university and present us with their learning management system for introductory psychology. We decided to go ahead with MyPsychLab as our learning management system, and we do still use some of the Moodle features, which is the LMS here on campus, but mostly we do use the MyPsychLab. We are currently using 3 undergraduate teaching assistants and 1 graduate teaching assistant to help us with the course. We started with 3 graduate students and decided that this was an opportunity and a good chance for undergraduates to get some experience. They proved so valuable that we are now down to 1 graduate teaching assistant and using mostly undergraduates to assist us. What we achieved in the last few semesters is more efficient use of a large lecture hall. We now have 4 sections that meet each week instead of 2. We are now able to serve approximately 1,300 students a semester rather than the 1,000 we used to. We have adopted across all sections of intro psychology a common curriculum, a common text, and we are giving mostly common exams. We have also begun sharing lecture responsibilities. We decided that it might be interesting for each of us to teach to our personal strengths. So during the semester, among the 3 of us, we each teach two lectures in each of the other instructors' courses in the areas that we're most passionate about, our areas of expertise. And it has proved to be very, very interesting to both the students and us. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that with the redesign that we were not reducing the rigor of the course or what students were learning. So we are maintaining a traditional twice-a-week face-to-face lecture course, and we're using it to test that we are equivalent to this traditional format. One thing that is involved with an NCAT course redesign is they do look at cost savings, and we were able to reduce our costs from $48.07 a student to $40.96 a student. And that was a savings of $7 a student, but you multiply that by 1,300 students a semester, that's $9,000 a semester. In fall 2011, instead of paying 3 graduate TAs, we now pay 1, which also reduced our costs by $16,000. To give you an idea of what our teaching assistants do, our undergraduate teaching assistants work for course credit. We have 1 TA assigned to each section. They hold 4 hours of office hours per week to meet with students. They do attend all class meetings, so they're familiar with what's gone on in the face-to-face portion. They do assist us with posting grades, and they do assist with grading some group and extra credit projects because the format we have developed these in allows them to do anonymous grading. They do not know whose student paper they're grading. Our graduate teaching assistant is a paid position, and they helped us to supervise the undergraduate TAs, and they grade homework, group and extra credit assignments. They're in the office 8 hours a week to meet with students and to assist our undergraduate TAs in any way they can, to assist the instructors, to serve as a general go-to person. I'm a big one for numbers and data, and I always like to make sure that the student outcomes, student performance, is comparable regardless of the learning modality. So in spring of 2011, we had 2 hybrid sections and 1 traditional section. In fall of 2011, we had 3 hybrid sections, 1 traditional section, and 1 100% online section. So this gave us an opportunity to compare across 3 major teaching modalities to look at learning. So we made a comparison in performance of the students and their overall satisfaction across all of the different formats. The grades distribution across the different formats is shown on this slide for both spring 2011, our first rollout semester, and fall 2011. Now, grades of A, B, and C are in the first columns. D, F, and W, which is a grade of D, a grade of F, or withdrawn from the class, in the last 2. In the hybrid section, there are 2 numbers, and this is because of an anomaly we found in spring 2011 and in fall 2011, and that is, in both cases, the Friday class performed well below the Monday and Wednesday hybrid class. When we looked at the students' initial GPAs at the beginning of the term, they were lower. And we'll see some other differences as we go through more data. So I wanted to include them. The first number on hybrid, 69% across all 3 sections earned an A, B, or C. In just the Monday and Wednesday section, 78% earned an A, B, or C. Then we have the traditional, which was the twice-a-week face-to-face, 76%, and the online was 83%. So the grade distributions for hybrid and traditional were very similar. We found outliers, though, when we looked at the online class. They seemed to perform much, much better in both spring and fall, especially in spring, and again, they performed a little better in fall. And we do have some data that may answer why this occurred. We did have slightly higher withdrawal rates in the hybrid sections. We think this is because this is a new format to many students, and they need to become a little more comfortable with the format and the personal responsibility that this format brings. When we look at how the students performed on exams, we can look at what we're calling unit exams, which are the 3 exams we give throughout the semester, and then we have a comprehensive final exam. The blue and red are the hybrid and traditional. The green is the online course. There was no significant difference between traditional and hybrid sections, but there was between traditional and hybrid, but there was between traditional and hybrid and the online section. The online section performed significantly better every time in both unit exams and in the final exam. We also each year do a learning assessment within the psychology department within the university, and for this we have a group of what we call our core items, which are 20 questions that are answered and included on the final exam in all sections of introductory psychology. When we look at the differences here, in the hybrid sections and traditional, again, there was no significant difference. Unfortunately, they performed uniformly poorly. The online course, again, scored significantly higher on these 20 items. Now, in the hybrid sections, the exams were given online except for the final. In the traditional section, all core exams were administered within the course, face-to-face, in the classroom, and of course the 100% online, they were all given online. This difference we were finding with the 100% online was leading us to believe that perhaps students in the online course were not being honest and were not using their notes and text during the exam. So we thought maybe it's academic integrity. We looked at the online students. On the unit exams, they scored 4% higher. On the final, 9% higher. And only the online students took the final exam online. All other sections, including hybrid, took the final exam in a proctored setting in the classroom. So this 5% boost above what we would expect, was it a measure of online cheating? We were hoping that was not the case, so I began to look at the data, some of the demographic data of how each course was, who was enrolled in each course. And I found some significant differences. If you look at the online class, 47% were juniors or seniors, whereas in the hybrid and traditional, only 15% were juniors and seniors. Most were freshmen and sophomores. So the juniors and seniors may have become better test takers throughout their college career. Also, if we look at their grade point average at the beginning of the semester by instructional type, we find that the online students' starting GPA was much higher than in the hybrid or in the traditional course. That led me to believe, well, maybe this Friday course that seems to perform poorly may be different also. And again, when I looked at their starting grade point average, we found that the Friday course was significantly lower, had a significantly lower starting GPA than the Monday or Wednesday course. So although some of the better performance by the 100% online students might be academic integrity, I think they're just more experienced students. They're better students to begin with who self-select into an online course. So we've basically come to the conclusion that yes, all three instructional methods are showing equivalent learning, and the hybrid is able to do it at a reduced cost. And so we are definitely going to be continuing with the hybrid course. Let me show you a little bit about how this hybrid is organized. We do use the media we assign media activities, and they're due by 9 o'clock on every class day. And we meet at 11 a.m. So by 9 o'clock that morning, the student would have had to have at least gone into my psych lab, interacted with these 4 activities, completed the questions associated with these activities, and submitted their responses. So when they got to class, they've actually read the textbook, they've interacted with the material. We also, one of the reasons we did choose my psych lab is that we're able to modify the questions that are asked with the media assignments. So the students are getting questions that are specific to our courses that require them to think and integrate knowledge. We also use the chapter exams as low-stakes practice exams. They can take them as often as they want. They do get credit for them as long as they score 80% or better. They get a few points. On our online exams, we did create question pools. So for each exam, which is 50 multiple choice questions, each of those 50 questions is selected from a pool of 3 questions for that question, so that it'd be very difficult for 2 students to get the exact same exam. We have extra credit, which is 3 short writing assignments. We do use the e-text. The students like the audio text. Some of our English as second language students really enjoy listening to the text while reading. We use the quick quizzes. We tell them to use these for practice. They're good ways to check on small sections of information. We did use the study plan initially, but we have discontinued it due to some technical problems that we seem to encounter here that many other students and at many other schools that I've talked to that use my psych lab have not encountered. So I'm not sure why that's happening, but we did discontinue that. Of course, we wanted to look at how students felt about the course. So in the first semester, because it was the pilot, we surveyed them 3 points in the semester, at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And we did give them 6 extra credit points for completing the surveys to encourage them to do the surveys. In the fall, we did 1 survey at the end of the term for 4 points of extra credit, but we did make it fairly involved. There were like 30 questions on there, some which were essay, in order to get them to really think about their experience, both with the course format, with my psych lab, with their experience during the semester as a whole. Now, all of the surveys were anonymous, except we got notification of completion for each instructor. We had a separate person collect the data and aggregate it so that no one knew who said what on the surveys. So we could assure our students that they were anonymous to their instructor. So let's look at some of the things that the students said they liked. Okay? We do have this broken down into the hybrid course for 492 responses. In traditional, we had 218. And in the online class, we had 61. In the hybrid classes, in each section, there were 300 students. In the traditional section, there were 300 students. And in online, there were 100 students. So as you can see, a lot of the students didn't go after the extra credit points. In the traditional class, my psych lab was an option. It was not required, and they did not earn credit for completing things in my psych lab. Online and hybrid did include many of the things in my psych lab. So 69% saw that my psych lab contributed significantly to their success in the course. Even in the traditional course, almost half of them thought it really, really helped. Would they recommend my psych lab to friends or other students? 67% said yes. Even in the traditional, 57%, and online, 64%. Did they wish other professors used my psych lab? 53%, 45, 53. Positive responses. Did my psych lab add value to the course? Very strong positive responses, even when it was optional. The question we asked in the hybrid that we didn't ask in the other sections were, compared to the traditional format, did they like the hybrid better? And here it was about a 50-50 split. The jury's still out. We're hoping when the survey comes back for this semester that that number will go up, because as anyone knows who teaches, the more you do it, the better you get at it. You know how to get the students more interested, more involved. Some of the open-ended questions we asked them, what did you like best about this class? And these are not really edited. I did do a few spelling corrections. I love the assignments I had to do. They were fun, and I definitely learned more from doing them. I actually enjoyed the hybrid course a lot. It was a new and refreshing way of learning material. I liked how a lot of it was online, but there was one class a week to where you could ask questions if you had any. Multiple attempts helped me practice and master the material more instead of just comprehending it. That statement doesn't sound like it's coming from a student, but it did. The fact that it's only one day a week and we had a lot of tools to help us prepare for the chapter exams. Comments from last fall, they were overwhelmingly positive. But they figure, well, professor really wants to hear, positive stuff. They want to hear that everything was good. So I added a question. I said, what would you tell your little brother or sister if they said they were going to take a 50% online class? And these are 4 of the best responses I ran across. It's a good class to take if you have the self-discipline to do work on your own time without anyone being on your back about it. You need to sit down and take the time to study. Just because you only go to class one day doesn't mean you should spend less time studying for it. To keep up with all of the web work and to read all of the required chapters in a timely manner. I would tell them to take it. The hands-on help given by my psych lab makes learning easier. And I think these are things we tell students at the beginning of the semester. We tell students who are having difficulties. And it's nice to see that some of the students have picked up on this information. Okay. So what actually did we learn about students? We learned some good things. We learned some not so good things. We learned that many, many students are not as technically sophisticated as we thought they were in using technology. Okay. Having students work on their own does not necessarily mean they're going to take increased responsibility for learning. Okay. We still get a lot of questions, a lot of, oh, I didn't realize there was a deadline. And meeting a deadline is new to many of our students. They're very surprised when we hold them to a deadline. We did discover they're great, they have great imagination. Some of the excuses we heard for why things happen have really enriched our repertoire of student stories to share with others. Some students are going to chase points, not really knowledge. They just want points, points, points. But I found this even before we went to the hybrid course, that a lot of students will do anything for a point or two rather than being concerned with what they really know. Some of the experiences we had is that as the faculty, we're now more focused on curriculum design and course management than sage on the stage. So we're having to look more deeply into what do we want the students to learn rather than just beginning a talk on automatic pilot and just saying the words. We're concerned with what are the most important things we want these students to take away. Doing a hybrid or a redesign of any kind is more work initially. But even as we're going through this 3rd semester, we're finding the workload is diminishing significantly. Many of our student-faculty interaction now is more individual than class-based. We do a lot more electronic interaction through email with students, that sort of thing. We do find, especially in the early part of the semester, we spend a lot of time helping students solve technical problems, getting registered, learning how to use my psych lab. They tend to want to hear this from the instructor rather than the teaching assistant. Pearson is beginning to develop a campus ambassador program to help with these kind of technical difficulties on campuses. So I think that will help the students and the instructors, especially at the beginning of a semester. So what are some of our final tips, some of our things that we would suggest to someone? If you're thinking of redesign, it's been a great experience. It's a learning experience for students as well as faculty. And I don't think anyone would be a faculty member if they didn't love learning. So this is a new way to look at learning, new ways to think about learning and how to learn. It's very difficult to think that students can learn even if you don't say it, that they can find that information. They can learn to look it up. You've got to be very comfortable with change. We are changing the way we've been teaching for years and years and years. Between the three of us doing this redesign, we had almost 80 years of teaching experience. So going from a traditional lecture format to this format where we're only hitting certain specific things and doing it in a different way is a little unnerving, but it's also invigorating. But you got to be prepared. You're going to have some negative feelings. You're going to have some frustration, some why me? Why did I ever agree to do this moments? But at the end, I think you're going to find a real feeling of accomplishment. It's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 semesters to really feel totally comfortable and really see the benefits, but I think it's going to be worth it. If you're thinking of redesign, I'd say make sure that you're not going to try to go it alone, especially if you're doing a course, a whole course rather than a single section. And if you're going to create a team, think about the people who are going to be on your team. You need one who is very student-oriented. You need one who can look at the big picture, and you need one who's going to be good with the details. Because when you set this up, you're going to have to be involved with the details. If you do go with a redesign, or you even add a learning management system like my Psych Lab to your course, one of the best suggestions I can give is start out simple. Use a few things, have everything else available, try a few things. Don't try to do everything at once or you're going to drive yourself up a wall, and it'll be much better to ease into it unless you're doing a complete redesign, and then probably you're going to have to jump in with both feet. But again, use the resources of whatever publisher you decide to use, whoever's going to be working with you. Make sure you get your teaching and learning center involved and get some experts on your side, not only to give you that information you need, but also to keep you going, to give you some of that encouragement when things get a little rough. And that's short synopsis of how we redesigned introductory psychology at UNC Charlotte, and I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
The first question is, can hybrid or online courses work at schools where many of the students don't have access to a computer at home?
I think they can, but you'd need to ensure that the computers they do have access to have long-term availability for the students, so that they can be there, 12, 14 hours a day to make it easier for them to do the work.
Okay, great. Next question is, what would you say is the #1 benefit of teaching an online or hybrid course?
I think one of the major benefits is that, especially for our average and slightly below average students, they get a chance to interact with the material as often as they want. They can do it over and over and over again until they can feel like they understand it. In the traditional course, you don't really get that chance. You present the material once, and that's it. They've got to go home and just read a book, and they don't get it in different media, different ways. And everybody, likes to learn in their own way and in their own way of interacting with material. Not everybody likes to just read a book. Some people like to hear it. Some people like to experience it.
Great. Next question is, can you talk a little bit about what was removed from the traditional class to create the hybrid course? For example, were there certain topics left out or less discussion during in-class time, things like that?
We really didn't leave anything out. In fact, we did more addition than subtraction. Now, our courses are 300 students, so in-class discussion basically was non-existent anyway. Now, though, one of the things that we added that the students seem to like are group activities, and they do it electronically. They interact in a group format, and we form groups of 7 to 8 students, and 3 times during the semester, the group has to get together electronically and answer a question. And they seem to like that. They get to kind of know who else is in their group. Some of them have met face-to-face. Most of them haven't. Some of the groups have gelled very, very well. Some haven't. We've added that. We've added the opportunity to practice for exams. We've added more opportunities to actually sit down and talk with someone with our TAs. So we've really added more than taken away, and we've learned that we don't have to say it in class for the students to be able to learn it. And that's been difficult because we've always thought, well, if I didn't say it in class, I can't test on it. And now we're learning, no, we don't have to say it in class for it to be eligible for a test question.
Great. So next question is, although it's not ever possible to completely eliminate cheating, what safeguards can you take to help prevent cheating on online exams?
I think having each question come from a question pool, limiting the time. We allow students 55 minutes for 50 questions, which is more than many other online instructors allow. And then I think I'm not going to worry about it, because if they're cheating and able to complete the exam in that amount of time, they at least have had to interact with the material enough before the test to know where to find the information in a timely manner. And that's kind of a way of learning also. So I am not going to bemoan the issue if some of them choose that route. That's their choice. I will do what I can to curtail it. I'd love to have a proctored testing center, but that is an expensive proposition at a university of our size.
Okay, great. So next question, what do you do with students who fall behind because they don't purchase an access code at the start of the semester?
We do give them a lot of reminders if they haven't during the first 4 or 5 weeks. We try to see what the problem is, see if, they might lose some points, but we try to have enough extra credit points later in the term that they can pretty much make up those points. Hopefully there's a way that students, if they can't afford it during the first 6 weeks, there's another way to handle it. But I don't know other than that.
Okay, next question is, have you considered automatic grading software to help with grading the short writing assignments?
We are currently in, as we speak, our students are submitting to the new online grading system their final extra credit project of the semester. So we're very anxious to see the results as they start coming in over the next few weeks.
Right. Next question is, do you ever have students who just opt out of the online piece or don't do the quizzing, etc., in the hybrid course?
They can, but basically you cannot pass the course if you do not do the online work. And they're told this right up front.
Right. Next question, what recommendations do you have for someone just starting to consider a course redesign? Where do you begin?
I would say to, listen to some of these webinars. I would definitely go to either a webinar or a face-to-face. Go to the NCAT website. There's lots of good information, and those schools who have participated in NCAT redesigns have made themselves available to other schools for questions, and to find out how did you do it. So there's lots of assistance out there through publishers, through MCAT itself.
Great. So next question, is this format more challenging for non-traditional students? And if yes, do you have any suggestions for making this transition to online or hybrid easier for them?
I think it's important for if your school is going in that direction to more hybrid online, that your Learning Resource Center, your Center for Academic Excellence, which is what we have at UNC Charlotte, offer a workshop of some sort that's available to students on how to study in this type of class. We have on our webpage for the course study samples. We have how to get an A in this class, what's the best way to study for this class. We try to give them as much guidance as possible, and a lot of our non-traditional students like it because it is a bit more flexible, because they only have to be on campus 1 day a week instead of 2.
Great. Next question, in an online or hybrid course, do you find that more students are likely to participate, where the thought is in a traditional classroom, oftentimes there are 1 or 2 people that dominate the classroom?
Yes, I have found that since I have started using an online component with my class, even before the redesign, that I get a lot more interaction, a lot more input. I have, a forum where they can share with the instructor, basically in private, and you get a lot of information, a lot of students, I think, speaking up and joining in conversations with other students online that wouldn't speak up in class.
Next question, do you know of anyone who's redesigned their entire curriculum, or is it best to start one course at a time?
Probably from our experience, I would say one course at a time. We are now getting ready to redesign at least one other course, but it's very much a learning process for the faculty and for the students. And I would say an entire curriculum would be a major undertaking, and it would take a big buy-in from everyone in the department, and that might be very difficult to come by.